Alright, so I just hooked up my qp16. You can see a perfect example of the size. It's a little bit longer. It's about 4 inches wide compared to the Wave, it's about 3 inches wide. But in terms of flow, I actually have a water change going on, and I'm actually going to run and stop it real quick. Alright, so pardon, I turned off the water change, but I think it was important to do this during a water change. So I have a ton of stuff that I kicked up in the sand from the sand, as everything's kind of in the water column. So it really lets you see the flow. And what's most impressive that I don't get from the Wave is actually the upflow underneath the pump. Now I only have my qp16 on at the moment, so you can actually see the suction that this is getting. And this is a 60-inch long 150, so this is the whole other end of the tank, and you can still see how much stuff that this is really pushing. And again, I mean, I have my PB8s in the back, I have the other Wave here, my return, nothing else is on except for the QP. So I'm going to pause this. I'm going to actually turn off the QP and turn my other Wave on the other end to full power so we can just do a little bit of a comparison here. So I have the Wave on 100%, and obviously it's going to suck a little bit of water. It's a little bit higher in the tank, and I haven't turned everything back on to raise the water level in the tank in a moment. But you can see this does push a good amount as well. This is on 100% as well. Here's the other end of the tank. It doesn't seem to push as much. And mind you, this is a brand new pump in a qp16 versus a 20-month-old Wave. So I expect a little bit of deterioration in terms of pump. The big thing for me, though, is the lack of upflow from the Wave. And you can see I was doing a water change, so there's like the one tubing there. It's pulling up from below, but not nearly as much of an uptake as the qp16. And quite frankly, it's probably the biggest surprise I have. Now, I think that's more or less of I'm going to call it a design flaw on the Wave. But the way that they have the intake around the impeller is literally just that one area. There's a little bit on the back side, but in terms of the bottom, and again, you're going to see that air every now and then because it suctions down from the top, but in terms of the bottom, and it's hard to see here, but there is no intake gills, so it really limits the updraw of the pump. And as you're trying to recirculate water, I think it's important to be pulling that top and kind of kicking it along. And you see it's a lot of SPS guard in here, and again, forget the cloudy water, it's a water change, and I wanted to have this kicked up stuff in the water so we could see the pumps a little easier. But for so much SPS and stuff in here where they really high flow type acros and stuff, it's important to kind of have that upflow and really pounding everything around, making sure all the food and particulate gets around so the corals can eat. So it is a little concerning, and I hadn't honestly noticed it before with the Wave until I did this experiment. So it's been 20 months or so since I've been with the Wave pumps, and never even cared to notice it because I didn't have something to directly comp it to. So that said, I am pretty impressed. So let me actually turn off the Wave, and I'll go through the couple of options with the qp16 here. So again, the qp16 is back on. And again, just the amount of suction from the bottom of the tank is pretty staggering compared to the other. Now, I mean, it's not on the exact same side as a Wave, so later on in the week I'll actually put the other one in on the other side because maybe that rock work is impacting it some. I mean, a little unfair, I guess, at the moment. So I will put another QP on the other end just to do an exact one-to-one comp. But just some things that, with the controller, the screen goes black pretty much when it's off. There is a little bit of a display there, but the camera's not really picking it up. So it is still on. You can see it. It's just hard to see at a glance. So if you click any button, you're obviously going to wake it up. At the top left here denotes which mode you're currently on, and you can kind of see, you have straight, a little bit of wave. This is for an anti-sync in case you have another pump going. M4 is kind of what they call nature mode. It's a little random. And then M5 is more random with no real, they call it the SYN system. There's no real up and down type motion. It's as most random as you can get. And then M6 would be if you're having multiple pumps working in unison. I'll never use any of those. I'll probably set this up at the M4, M5, most likely M5, just to keep complete and utter variableness going in the system. Frequency, basically, what your frequency is. I have this, full power just so we can see what it is. I'll play around with it and kind of knock it down a little bit. The frequency is more or less how often, these wave patterns are going to be going. Do you want shorter, choppier waves? Do you want longer, higher cresting waves? What do you want out of there? Speed. So, you can see the flow is going up there. I actually had this down fairly low, so it's amazing that I was getting that much uptick, at a lower rate. So again, you have the speed on here as well. Night mode, never going to use it. I actually keep my pumps running pretty much all day long. Very often, infrequently do I lower it down. Now you can get an adapter for this to plug it into the Apex. I may do that in the future. At the moment, I just don't care. You have feed option over here, as well as the ability to link this up with any of the other controllers as you get more pumps. So when I have the second one on here, I might do the anti-sync, or I might have them both set to a wave just to keep total chaotic motion in here. My Jabos in the very rear are normally on constant on, so I'm sorry, anti-sync. So they kind of jostle a little bit, and then I utilize my end pumps for most of the real heavy set chaotic flow in the tank. So that's pretty much it for first impressions. I'm impressed. I will note the one kind of pain in the butt aspect of the pump are those little rubber nubs at the back side. You have to put the magnet housing onto the pump. You'd think it'd be easier to slot on. It took me a minute or two. They're not the most, I don't know, it's not the best setup of what I would have gone with, but it's nice that it does, kill all vibration. Speaking of sound, it's a little bit hard to tell because I have an ATI fan, so I'm always going to have pumps, or the fan going with the ATI light fixture, I should have said. I hear nothing. I actually had to look and make sure that it was spinning when I turned it on. In terms of sound, impressive. The waves, I only hear when they're ramping up and down every now and then. If a snail gets on it, obviously I'm going to hear that. But outside of that, they're fairly silent. This QP is a whole nother level of silence. I'm truly, truly happy with how quiet this is. So that'll be a wrap for tonight. I'll keep this updated as I kind of work with this week and sync it up and get the system all running. And obviously in the next video I won't be cleaning the tank, so the water will be nicer. You'll actually be able to see some better pictures of some of my corals that I have in here.